Hey everybody, this is Derek with Action A Go Go doing a quick reaction video as well as a sort of an explanation of what The Matrix was and what The Matrix did to action movies when it did come out in, oh my gosh, all the way back in 1999, I believe. And yeah, it was one of the movies that changed my life in terms of being a fan of action and seeing what it did and how it did it. And yeah, this the new Matrix with the Keanu that we're in right now. Keanu Reeves seems to be able to do no wrong. Really excited for this. Really excited for this. So we're gonna do two things. First is I'm just gonna react to the trailer and what I'm seeing here, and then go into the legacy of the trailer. I hope the trailer does have legacy here, but then the legacy of the Matrix itself, particularly that first movie that came out and the sequels and whatnot. But yeah, we can see the footage here. I'm not looking at it in real time. I'm going to edit this video together, but yeah, I mean this is interesting. This is interesting. So we have Keanu Reeves meeting people. Seems like some of the original cast. Looks like not all of them are going to be able to make it for whatever reason. And yeah, we see a lot of blue pills. A lot of blue pills, some action. Reeves or Neo, of course, or Thomas Anderson, seems to have his powers, seems to be in this brave new world that reminiscent of what we're living in now. And yeah, I really like everything I see. To be honest, I'm getting vibes of the original Matrix, the new characters that are here, the world that we've seen before from the Matrix. It's all here, and I'm really hoping for the best. Just to be honest, just to be frank, everything I see here, it's reminiscent of the old films, but it looks like they're trying to do something new, or at least do something new with the characters that we saw in the original films. And yeah, I mean, looks like we're gonna get martial arts. Looks like we're gonna get mind bending. I want to say Inception like, but of course, the Matrix did it first. Type of craziness, and we're even seeing flashes of the real world that the Matrix is actually in, with the robots and the squids, the battery pack human beings, all that stuff. So I'm really interested in where this goes. Um, Sort of doing this backwards in terms of the original films, talking about those in a minute, but the original films really did wrap everything up. So really curious to see where this movie's coming from, what they're going to do with the story, what they're going to focus on, because that original movie was so special. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a little bit of John Wick, a little bit of the powers, the supernatural Matrix stuff that Neo is famous for towards the latter part of the franchise. And yeah, hopefully we'll get some of that interesting dialogue. It looks like they're hinting at a lot of that. Now, could this movie go wrong? Absolutely. Um, in terms of rebooting and reboots, there's always a chance that something's not going to live up to what came before. There's always a chance that something's going to go sideways. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I really trust the Wachowskis. I'm a big fan of their work. Even the movies that don't get a lot of love, like Jupiter Ascending. I'm a huge fan of Jupiter Ascending. I love that movie. I'll probably do a video dedicated to it soon because I love it that much. But yeah, they're back. The Wachowskis are back. They're in business. Keanu's back for this role. Looks like we're going to have a fun time. So that's my initial reaction to this trailer. And just to bounce over to what The Matrix was originally, I was in my formative years when the first Matrix came out. The first Matrix did come out in '99. That was my first year of high school. Very much open to being influenced and I want to say guided by the entertainment I was seeing. And The Matrix came out in a very good year for cinema, I believe. And it was around the time when directors like David Fincher, um, Paul Thomas Anderson, um, a lot of those guys who really became seminal auteurs were making their debut and were swinging for the bleachers, so to speak. And we're talking about movies like Seven, Boogie Nights, Heat from Michael Mann. Michael Mann directed that. He's been around a bit, but like really genre defining movies were coming out at that time. And then The Matrix showed up. And The Matrix took elements of martial arts films, took elements of anime and manga, as well as classic elements of American cinema and sci-fi, and turned them into this wild, wonderful, latex-covered sci-fi wonderland that just hit theaters in 1999, and changed everything. Now, I do want to give a special shout out to the movie Blade. The movie Blade had a lot of similar elements to it. I think because Blade is sort of like a sci-fi horror film, sort of stuck it in its niche a little bit more. But you do have to watch Blade. You do have to understand what Blade did, because I believe Blade did come out before The Matrix, and I do believe that Blade influenced The Matrix as well as the movie X-Men, the first X-Men film, in terms of the look and feel of supernatural sci-fi or even superhero films. But yeah, when The Matrix came out, its combination of religiosity, philosophy, and intense action was mind-blowing. And I say this with no hint of irony. The first Matrix was my generation's Star Wars. The first Matrix changed everything for my generation the way that Star Wars did to people in the 70s, to the industry in the 70s. Why do I say that? Well, it introduced a philosophy, much like the Force. I don't want to say a religion, but like Star Wars was influenced by Eastern philosophy, the Force, energy around us, all that sort of stuff. The Matrix really took that, turned it up a notch, introduced that philosophy, hinting at reincarnation or solidifying reincarnation, balance. You're a part of the Matrix. You can affect the Matrix, or the Matrix can affect you. Obvious metaphor for life. Really, really great stuff that made you think. So it was more than just watching bullets whiz by. It really made you ponder almost the nature of life itself. What are we here for? How do we affect the world around us? What is reality? And what a combination. So there is the philosophical elements to it that to me stand out always when you talk about the Matrix. But then you have the action, the actual action. And oh my God, that scene where Neo dodges the bullets for the first time, where the camera is looping around him, the slow motion, the CGI elements, the squids that were flying around. Sorry if I'm misnaming them, but designed by Jeff Darrow. Jeff Darrow, one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, most favorite. And he just provided amazing visuals for them to bring to life on the screen. But anyway, the action, the motion, the fluidity, the gunfighting, all of this was either stolen or borrowed from Hong Kong action films and anime films of the time and used to amazing effect, where it was just as good, if not better. So when you were watching that in the theater, by the time we were done watching the movie, it was a packed house. Everybody stood up and clapped. And I've only seen that a couple times in the theater. But that's just to give you an idea of how much of an effect the movie had on the audience. So there's the philosophical elements, the action elements, then solidifying Keanu Reeves as one of the greatest action stars of all time. Lawrence Fishburne, other members of the cast who are just amazing. And just trying to think of anything else. The look, the feel, the latex, the leather, the sexuality of it. Also, the fusion of man and machine, the fusion of science fiction with the modern internet culture, bringing that to the forefront in ways that was laughable before. Like there was movies that tried to exploit the internet, movies like The Net, movies like Hackers, even sort of afterwards, movies like Swordfish. Of course, those were a bit more based in reality. Like there wasn't some magical world you were a part of, like in The Matrix. But The Matrix was, in a sense, the ultimate cultural touchstone in terms of film that signaled, look, we're in a new era. We're in a new phase. The internet is here, and it's going to change everything. And the idea of living inside the internet the way that these people do is more real than ever. And we're slowly catching up to the Matrix. Never mind other cultural touchstones like you may hear of red pills and blue pills. I mean, that goes right back to here. And in terms of what this film did for other action films after The Matrix came out, you saw The Matrix fingerprints all over other action films in terms of slow motion, in terms of integrating martial arts. Not so much gunfighting, actually. This may have been the greatest gunfighting film of all time because after, other cultural moments in United States history that I just don't want to touch on here, gunplay, especially in movies, really, turned a corner. It was just frowned upon, and you saw that in the sequels. You saw that things changed in the sequels. There was different focuses. They focused on different things in the sequels in different ways. And but this was the height of gunplay in film, as far as I'm concerned. Unless you go back to the great John Woo films, The Killer and Hard Boiled, where gunplay is unmatched in those films. But you saw that anyway. The martial arts influences, the look of films, the soundtrack of films, the wow 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 elements like that were very 90s as well. The Matrix is a very 90s film, but it's one of the top 10 best 90s films. And this film does hold up. I've watched it repeatedly. I've watched it again and again. It hits this magical tone where it's out of time but in time at the same time. It's a very engrossing, beautiful experience, The Matrix. The sequels didn't live up to the original in certain ways. I will leave that up for you to decide. Feel free to sound off in the comments. I'd love to talk to some people in the comments about that, about what may have gone right and what may have gone wrong with the sequels. Having said that, these films did have an incredible fan presence, incredible influence on all sorts of people. I think what separates it from Star Wars, because it was my generation Star Wars, is that it just didn't stick the landing with the sequels. And maybe it bit off a bit more than it could chew, in my opinion. And that sort of broke the chain in terms of that's why we don't see the Matrix continuing its influence the way that Star Wars and Marvel films have. And because these movies were up there. These movies were that influential. These movies were that pervasive. People were talking about these movies all the time until the second and third one hit, and it just became clear that maybe there was, I don't know, they'd gotten all the juice out of the berry, or maybe they did it, that was it, and then they just moved on, sort of thing. But for a time, there was the Animatrix, I believe there was comics as well. People were trying to explore this world, and there was more to go by, but things just sort of fizzled out. But having said that, talking about its influence, never mind on other movies, the Animatrix, I believe, is still one of the greatest moments in American animation history. Influential in its own right. You look at Love, Death, Robots, my other true love right now. Very influential in that. But yeah, anyway, the trailer was short. So, long story short, I do like what I'm seeing in the trailer. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see a return to form. I think there's potential for it to be disappointing, but you know what? I'm just going to let sleeping dogs lie. And I just want to see what they do. I'm not going to pin too many hopes on it. Reboots, you got to sort of step back and just accept it for what it is at a certain point. But yeah, and in terms of the original Matrix, I mean, go watch it. Go give it a whirl. I encourage you to watch all of it. I encourage you to watch the sequels. I even encourage, if you can get your hands on it, I encourage you to watch it with critic commentary, like people who don't like the films. And there's commentary with philosophers who, like people who get paid to think, who sort of thing. They comment on it and talk about how racially progressive these movies were. Oh God, I didn't even touch on that. These movies are incredibly racially progressive, especially in the 90s. Culturally progressive, the themes they talk about. Just dive in, folks. Rediscover this. Rediscover The Matrix. Enjoy it. Sink into it. And yeah, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think. Are you excited? Are you not excited? Do you care? Do you not care? Um, anyway, just want to thank everyone for listening. Do hope you enjoyed this video. This is Derek Scarzella. Thank you so much for watching this video. Just doing a quick outro. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Above all, we want to hear what you have to say about this video, this movie, what it meant to you. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, of course, YouTube. Check out our website, actionagogo.com. And of course, you can check out my own novels, Knuckle Crackbone, as well as The Vicious Game. Links are all down below. We also have a merch store if you want to enjoy our glorious Action A Go Go electric logo, which is going to come right after this. And of course, again, thank you so much for watching. It's super appreciated. Hope you had a good time. I know we did. Bye.